Hello everyone, it's Michelle here, and I'm taking part in a video hop today, and the theme of this video hop is hobbies and pastimes. So at the time of recording, I don't actually know who is part of this video hop, so it'll be a surprise to me. But we were asked to choose a hobby or a pastime and make a card based on that. Now, I don't really have that many stamps that have anything to do with hobbies or pastimes, so I don't really have sports themed stamps or anything like that. So what I thought is something I sometimes enjoy doing is arranging flowers, or at least seeing other people arranging flowers. So I decided, well, I don't really want to just put a picture of a bouquet on a card because that's a cop-out, so I decided to arrange my flowers myself. So I'm doing a flower arrangement on my card. So I started with this stamp set called Teacup Flowers from Hero Arts, and I stamped out all of these flowers from the set onto some Inkadinkadoo masking paper. And I'm just using, I fussy cut those all out, and I'm just using the masks to figure out how I wanted to arrange these flowers. Now, these are not the only images I'm going to stamp, but I decided that the things that are going to be right on the edge, I won't really need to mask them because they'll be the last things that I stamp. So I'm just making sure there's enough space for them. And then I realised I really should have laid this out on another sheet of paper because this piece of cardstock, this is watercolour paper, that's what I actually want to stamp on because I'm actually going to do some watercolouring with this. So I just moved them across and started again. Now, at this point, I might have, if I was doing this normally, I would have actually taken a photo of this arrangement with my phone so I could have it just sitting next to me the whole time. Trouble is, my phone is taking this video. So I just had to do my best and just take one flower at a time and figure out, okay, where does that go in the arrangement, and then remove its mask and put it over the top. Now, another thing that somebody might do is to pick up all of these, to move them across. They might have picked it up with some Glad Press and Seal, but I don't have any of that. It's not really freely available in Australia. Very few shops actually sell it, so I don't have any. And my masking paper is opaque, can't see through it at all, so that wouldn't have been much help at all. All right, so I've done most of my stamping, and every time I stamped a flower, I then added the mask over the top. Now, you notice with this particular flower and one or two others, I didn't actually cut out the stamens on the flowers in the mask because, one, that would be too difficult, and two, I actually wanted, in one part, I wanted those stamens to be overlapping another flower, so I didn't mask them. One part, it does look a little bit strange, but there is rhyme and to my reason. So, yeah, I'll fix it later on. Don't stress. All right, so I'm just adding in some little leaves. This ink pad that I'm using black hybrid ink from Picket Fence. And just yesterday, I re-inked my ink pad and I got just a little bit overzealous. So there were a couple of times where I pushed a little bit too hard and got a little bit too much ink on my stamp. So I've just got this scrap paper off to the side. In just such a circumstance, I can get rid of any excess ink there. All right, so my idea with this card was to make a sort of a garland in the middle of the card and to have a sentiment go across the middle of that garland, right in the centre. But I'm going to use a technique that I've used quite a few times in the past, which is to just watercolour pretty much willy-nilly over the top of the stamping. Sorry, my head gets in the way a couple of times here. And not really worry exactly where the colours go too much. And then add a little bit more detail and depth of colour using Copic markers over the top. So that's why I'm using this particular ink, because it is waterproof and it is Copic safe as well. All right, so I've got 4 different ink cubes here, and they are all from Paper Rose. Now, I've never actually used these for watercolouring before, so this is a first for me. And I made my first mistake right here. I really should have laid down some water onto the cardstock first and then added the colour. And you can see I'm fixing it now. I'm adding some water all around, because you can notice that in the little bit of purple that I just added at the beginning, it was a little bit heavy in one spot. And yeah, I didn't really like that, but it was all okay in the end, because that was just where I added some darker colour using my Copic markers, so it was all good in the end. So I've sped this bit up and cut out a fair bit of it, because it's just me adding colour, removing a bit where I had, for example, pink and green mixing and getting horrible browns, and then heat setting and then just adding more colour, and sometimes removing colour if I had it in the wrong spot. Then I just added some splatters of colour using a larger brush. And yeah, that was pretty much all the watercolouring done. I just removed a little bit. Some of these splatters, especially the blue, was just a little bit too overzealous, so I just blotted up those, and some of the pink ones were just a bit too intense for my liking, so I blotted them up and heat set that with my heat tool. So now I've got these 4 Copic markers, which are just darker versions of the same colours of the ink, and I'm just adding a little bit of depth of colour towards the centre of most flowers or towards the bottom of other flowers. So nothing special. I didn't do any blending whatsoever. You can see I've only got 1 of each colour. I'm just adding a little bit of depth of colour in the centre and in the bases of some colours, some flowers I mean. All right, so I'm going to stop talking for just a couple of minutes and let you watch my colouring. Right, so as you can see, I also added some white gel pen accents to the centres of the flowers and also to some of the stamens of the flowers. And you can see the pink flower over on the far left, I added white stamens because that was the one that was overlapping another flower. So it looked like I hadn't masked it properly, but once you add it to the white stamens, it's all good. Now, one of those, the large purple flower on the right, I really didn't like what I did with the white gel pen in the centre of that one. So I'm actually going to cover that up with this sentiment. So these pre-printed sentiments are from Paper Rose, and I've just cut this one. They're very simple to do. Now, they are printed on white paper, so it's a good idea to go around the edges with a black texture and to so that the white core of the paper doesn't show through. So I'm just going to add this panel, the watercolour and Copic coloured panel, to my card front. Just holding it up nice and straight on the edge of my work surface to make sure it's nice and straight on that card base. Then I'm just pushing it down with my bone folder, because when I did the watercolouring, I did get a little bit of warping of the watercolour paper. All right, so I'm just adding some liquid glue to the back of this. I added just a splodge too much, so I just removed a little bit with my fingers. And making sure it's nice and straight with my T-square ruler. For some reason, I'm having a really bad run with liquid glue at the moment. I always seem to get splodges of it everywhere, get way too much. All right, and the last little step here is I could not resist adding some of these gin and tonic mix sequins from Picket Fence Studios. These sequins seem to be making it onto almost every card that I make at the moment. They're just perfect. There's a variety of styles of sequins in there, some large, some small, some with holes in the middle, some without. Some of them are white, some of them are a little bit iridescent. So it's a really fabulous mix. And I said to Nicole at Picket Fence, I kind of really want these in industrial sized containers, because yeah, I'm going to be using a lot of them. All right, so now that I've added my sequins onto the card, I am pretty much done. So make sure you check out the link to the next video on this hop. It is in the description down below. All the links to the products that I've used are on my blog, and the link to my blog is in the description down below as well. Now, as you can see, I couldn't leave well enough alone because I had to add some Wink of Stella. Just those sequins just weren't enough shimmer and shine for me, so I had to add some Wink of Stella. Now, you've got to be careful with that over white gel pen because it can make it smear, but I think I managed to get that okay, and I just missed one little bit with my Copic. So here's the finished card. Thank you very much for watching, and keep on hopping on this video hop. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.